Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers. Hi, Brewer fans. Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast. It's Craig, Vince, and Scott with you here on the AllStar Break. How you doing, fellas?
Hey, Craig, how are you guys?
Doing good. Well,
excellent.
It's better. Could be worse.
Is Chad on the set here today or no?
He said he wanted to take a break for the AllStar Break. I don't know what that meant, but
Okay.
Yeah, he said he's getting a little tired of taping these shows. So
okay,
it is kind of a grind. I mean,
the first half can be tough. Well, we'll expect a strong Chad back for the second half and getting into the postseason. So.
Absolutely. So, let's see. I guess let's start off by congratulating the Brewers for adding their fifth All-Star, which is very close to their club record, which I believe was 7, right? Let's congratulate Brandon Woodruff, who became the fifth Brewer, joining Mike Moustakas, Yasmani Grandal, Josh Hader, and of course, reigning NL MVP Christian Yelich as All-Stars this half for the Brewers so far in 2019. So congratulations to all you guys, as unfortunately Josh Hader is going to have to miss the game due to injury, and Woodruff is the replacement. So
Craig, it actually ties the franchise mark. I think 5 was the high mark. So it was last year that we set the record in 2018, and this year is going to tie it as well. So pretty great to have back-to-back years with 5 All-Stars.
Well,
that is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sucks that we won't be able to see Hader in the All-Star game, but I mean, he had such a great time last year, I think. But at the same time, I mean, we're still going to get to see Yelich in the home run derby, so that's cool, right?
Scott, today that Yelich had to bow out of the home run derby with a back issue, correct?
What?
Yeah, well, that's a good segue into the fact that our MVP, National League MVP, Christian Yelich, is injured with back spasms, or hopefully this is a minor thing, and he'll be able to join the team back after the break. It's much more important than a home run derby or an all-star appearance, so to speak, because the Brewers are going to need him. I think, Scott, you mentioned one of our Twitter followers said something about he may have some back spasms due to the fact that he's been carrying the team on his back for the whole first half, or something along those lines. Maybe you can give a direct quote, Scott, and give credit to where credit is due.
That's it. Shout out to
have the interns tell you.
Yep. Shout out to Flippin' Foster on Twitter. Good job. Thought it was funny. Made me laugh and brought a smile to my face during these dark, dark times.
Yeah. So I guess that's a good segue. Or I was going to say the segue maybe into the recap of the Brewers last week, since you last heard a Brew Review podcast. We, of course, traveled to Cincinnati and then to Pittsburgh, and going into the break last year, it wasn't as bad as last year's going into the break, which I believe we lost 6 in a row, including a 5-game series in Pittsburgh. This year, we only lost 5 of the last 6, I believe. So a little bit of an improvement this year.
I was going to say, guys, last year was a horrible segue into the All-Star break as well. If you guys remember that 5-game series in Pittsburgh last season.
Yeah, but we were still I think right around 15 games over 500 or something like that. So, I mean, now we're 3. So there's that.
Not only that, but I mean, are the Pirates in first almost after this weekend? I don't know. They're very close.
I mean, at this point,
it seems like every year before the All-Star break.
Aren't they only 2.5 back now as well? Something like that. 3. I don't know.
Yeah, the Reds.
Year they thought they were in it and traded all their.
Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh is 2.5 back, guys. I just got a word from our interns. Pittsburgh is 2.5 back. The Brewers are a half game back. Yeah, the Brewers are a half game back of the Cubs. The Cardinals are 2 games back. The Pirates are 2.5 games back. And the Cincinnati Reds are actually only 4.5 games back as well.
Oh, well, the division is just as close as everyone thought it was coming into the year going into the second half. So that'll be exciting. So, I mean, I don't want to talk about the NL Central probably being the best team in baseball. I don't know if that still holds water at the AllStar break, but I would say it's definitely the most competitive, as I know no other second-place team is within a couple of games of the first-place team, whereas our entire division is that many games within first place. So it should be a pretty interesting second half, I would say.
Yeah, guys, we're going to be excited, hopefully, for some more playoff baseball. But, yeah, long ways to go yet. Second half is obviously not taking place till next week, so we've got some time yet to make it or break it, I guess. But not a good end of the first half, obviously, Craig. To your point. So I think that it seems like we do this every year. I don't understand what it is with the last week before the AllStar break every season, but it seems like this has been a theme now for at least the last couple years.
It's like when you're back at school when you were going to go on like winter or spring break or something like that, and like everybody kind of mailed it in with like a couple days to go just because you were just looking forward to that break. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know, but buckle your seatbelts, guys, and just remember, if you don't have like an ulcer or a heart condition, you might by the end of the season.
Excellent. All your Brewer fans, make sure to get your health checkups. I know that the stress levels are probably up and your blood and cholesterol levels during the Brewer season as well as mine and all the members of the Brewer Review. We like to try to keep that in check. But anyway, yeah, the Brewers are helping. And so a couple of other developments, I guess. Orlando Arcia narrowly avoided a serious injury, I believe, and it's now being said that he won't miss much time. But there was a scare there, and luckily the Brewers have some depth at shortstop in the system, as Mauricio Dubon has been having an excellent season at AAA. And he got the call, I know, when the injury happened. He may get sent back down, not sure, but he did get the call here before the AllStar break. And that's someone who I know we'll probably wait until our next podcast to start really delving into potential trade deadline moves or all that stuff. But I would say Mauricio Dubon probably moved himself to the forefront of being our number one trade chip, I would say, going into the trade deadline, so to speak. And I think if Arcia's injury was significant, that would have prevented us from considering trading Dubon because we would have needed him at the major league level. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Craig, I think that you're absolutely right about Dubon. I think that he's definitely a trade chip. First of all, we should say congrats to him. He did make his Brewers debut today, so he did officially appear in a Brewers uniform in a game. He was 0 for 1 as a pinch hitter in today's game against Pittsburgh, so he is officially an all-time Brewer. But yeah, I think that Dubon is probably the most likely trade chip that we've got. If I'm David Stearns, I think I'm going to be looking at starting pitching. We can maybe analyze some of the names that are going to be out there, whether I guess in this episode or future episodes. But a few guys come to mind right away if we want to delve into that. But I do think that Dubon is going to be probably a guy that David Stearns views as expendable, given the fact that Arcia is still young and cost controlled for a number of years. So yeah, I think you're spot on, Craig. I think Dubon is probably our number one trade chip at this point, especially given Corey Ray's injury this year. So I think maybe going into the year we would have said Dubon or Corey Ray, but with Ray being injured for a good chunk of the first half, I think that it's definitely Dubon at this point.
Corey Ray, Zach Brown, both of them battling injuries, so their stock has dipped a little bit. Technically, I guess you could say our best trade chip is Keston Hiura, but I don't see that happening. Although we did kind of run Ricky Weeks out of town because he wasn't going to play anywhere other than second base. He didn't have that flexibility. Hiura has the same problem, but Weeks was at the tail end of his career at that point, and Hiura. I
was going to say, Scotty, when you say Weeks, I mean you're talking about a guy that was up from 2005 through 2012. At that point, so we exactly ran him out of town. He had 7 years in Milwaukee or something.
Oh no, I just mean
2012.
I just mean Stearns, when he came in, he was like looking at Ricky Weeks and saying, this guy can only play second, so that's not really going to fly. because his bat didn't really play. He was at the end of his career anyway. So two completely different things.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Keston Hiura, I think they know when they drafted him that he was going to be second base or DH, and that's pretty much it. And since there's no DH in the NL as of now, it's pretty obvious that they were, knowing that he's not going to have flexibility, but what's important is his bat, and that's obviously shown that it's there. So, yeah, absolutely. So as far as just like a little bit of a first half recap, if you would have told us at the beginning of the season the Brewers would be a half game out of first at the AllStar break, I think we probably all would have taken that, knowing that we could gear up for the second half and make a playoff push at that point. But the fact of the matter is, as Scott pointed out, that we're only a couple games over 500, which I think is underachieving for this team. And not only that, but the rest of NL Central has been also underachieving collectively, especially the Cubs and the Cardinals, and that's just playing into our favor, I guess, so to speak. But the other teams that are possibly in any potential wild card race are really, it'd be a very crowded field, so to speak, at this point. And I think the Brewers' best route to the playoffs, once again, will, of course, be winning the NL Central. And I think that's very important looking in the second half. But overall, my concern is that I think if you take away the 5 All-Stars that the Brewers do have off the roster, almost every single other player is underachieving, in my opinion, and some of them massively to the point, Travis Shaw being almost off the team, and everyone else has really been underachieving overall. Most of our pitching staff, top to bottom, minus obviously getting back to the offense. Orlando Arcia, I think, has bounced back from a really down year last year, and I'd say he's having a overachieving type year, but almost everyone else. Could you guys point out anyone else in particular that you're satisfied with the performance outside of our 5 All-Stars and Arcia?
I'm not as disappointed in Lorenzo Cain as you kind of intimated there, Craig. He's still played great defense. He's been okay with the bat. So I would say him. I'd also say Zach Davies, in the starting rotation, just because he's not an All-Star. I think that Davies has pitched well. Matt Albers in the bullpen. Certainly, I think if you took away 5 All-Stars from any team, they'd probably be able to point to a lot of guys who were not necessarily living up to the hype, so to speak. So, I guess I'm not as disappointed maybe as you might be.
I'm having a hard time coming up with anybody else. Braun is doing about what I expected at this stage in his career. He's 35 now, so.
Yeah, and Eric Thames, I guess, would be another name. He's had a pretty decent first half and probably exceeded expectations, or at least the expectations that I had for him coming into the year as well.
Yeah, he started off slow, but he's picked it up.
Yeah.
And Jesus has been showing signs of life, I guess, lately, but barely. But there's just been some other guys that we really, I think, we're counting on in some capacity coming this season, especially our younger guys. I think are the most disappointing are whatever happened with Corbin Burns, possible rotation member, and also Freddie Peralta, who showed such promise, and then also, such lack of control to the point where I don't know if the Brewers are even going to consider him in the rotation moving forward. And then, of course, some of them are just, due to injury, but even someone like Gio Gonzalez that we signed late after the season started or whatever really has not been that much of a contributor yet either. And so I don't know. It seems to me that, and I know we pointed this out on our podcast, but it really seems to me that the Brewers pitching staff overall has really taken a step back as to last year's quality, obviously. And then the other thing to consider is the offense. Some of our fringe offensive players have just been not doing very well. I guess the other guy I'll throw out there who's exceeded my expectations for his role would be like Ben Gamble, I suppose. And that's been valuable. But other than that, I think there's plenty of overall disappointment. Even the fact that we are so close to first place, but then only a few games under 500, I just feel like we're underachieving.
What about Matt Albers? He exceeded my expectations.
Scott, I said him already.
Oh, you did? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that's true because I didn't have much of expectations.
Right.
I didn't have expectations for him to stick with the team all year, in spite of his contract. So the fact that he's been pretty solid is good. I mean, outside of this last couple of days, I mean, Junior Guerra has been fairly solid and kind of in a new role for him this year.
I
think he's been
agree.
Pretty good as he's a member of more of the mid to late end of our bullpen rather than like a swing man, long man like he was last year. So I think he's handled that fairly well, but just overall. So.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think that, a guy like Albers, he seems to have a good year every 2 years. So I guess I didn't know. I thought maybe he'd have a decent year this year. But, I mean, definitely guys are disappointing, certain guys. I think you pointed it out well, Craig, like, the Corbin Burns and Freddie Peralta examples. Certainly, certainly we should talk a little bit about the guys that did make the AllStar team too, though, as being exceeding expectations. So I think Mike Moustakas has exceeded expectations, even though we all knew that he was a solid offensive performer. He's also been playing a different position than normal for a good chunk of the first half. Yasmani Grandal, I think, has not only lived up but probably exceeded expectations. Josh Hader has continued to be a dominant left-handed reliever out of the bullpen. Brandon Woodruff has really stepped it up. I don't know that we necessarily gave him enough credit coming into the year. I think that Woodruff has really proven to be a solid rotation piece, and obviously his selection in the AllStar game is kind of indicative of that. Christian Yelich has not only continued to be really good, but he's continued to be a definite contender for most valuable player in the National League this year. So we got to talk about the All-Stars a little bit too if we're going to talk about the guys who are disappointing us.
Well, I suppose we can start with Yelich. I mean, he's going into the break. He's got 31 homers, which is an all-time Brewers record for the first half, correct?
Incredible. I mean, he's on pace to eclipse Prince Fielder's 50 home runs in 2007 at this point. So, yeah. I mean, his first half has been incredible.
I mean, when he became a Brewer, I was excited because I was like, this is a guy that can hit, well over 300 and contend for batting titles and someday hit 30 homers in a season. For him, if you would have told me at the time, well, he'll hit that, at least each half or even in the first half, like I would say that'd be nearly impossible. But I mean, Christian Yelich is someone who, if you take a look at the guy or his track record, even in the minor leagues or with the Marlins, that would all suddenly hit 60 home runs in a season. I don't know where this is coming from, but I mean, he's definitely having an unbelievable season.
He's already hit way more homers as a Brewer than he did his entire time in his career at the Marlins. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think just this year alone he's had more than his entire career with the Marlins, so that's unbelievable.
Very possible.
And then, as Vince pointed out, Woodruff, he definitely exceeded my expectations. I thought he'd be the third best member of the young trio of arms we were slotting in the rotation at the beginning of the year, and he's making the AllStar break, so I think that speaks in and of itself. He's been unbelievable, and credit to him because he went from this time last year being a potential trade chip to being now a solid member of the rotation going forward, and definitely off any type of potential trade, block. That's for sure. I think he's going to be with the Brewers going forward for sure.
Guys, Christian, I just talked to the interns. Christian Yelich's home run high with the Marlins was 21 home runs in 2016.
Crazy.
Yep. So he hit 36 last year in a full season in Milwaukee, and he's already at 31 here in the first half. His career high total was 21 in 2016 with the Marlins, at least, and then in 2017 he hit 18 before the Brewers acquired him before the 2018 season. And in his years prior to that, he had 2015 he had 7 home runs, 2014 he had 9, and 2013 he had 4. So he's already hit. This is an interesting stat. He's hit 67 home runs as a member of the Brewers in essentially 1.5 seasons, and he hit 59 home runs in 5 seasons with the Marlins.
Unreal. Give the hitting coach a raise.
There you go. Anyway.
So I guess looking forward to the second half, obviously I think we still need to be in full on go for it mode. I don't think we have the same number of trade chips potentially as we did last offseason, and in position to make the bold moves that we did both in July and August. And now we only have July and not August for our GM to work with, as the rules of baseball have changed. Scott pointed that out in previous podcasts and everything. So I think the fact that two of our All-Stars are basically one-year free agent rentals, and Mike Moustakas and Yasmani Grandal, even makes it like more so that we need to really make a run for it this season, because we could potentially be losing both those guys and they won't be coming back, and that's the huge blow to the 2020 and beyond Brewers. So
yeah, that's a good point, guys. I mean, we do have the possibility that we're going to lose both Moustakas and Grandal after the season. So yeah, Craig, I agree. I think it's go for it mode. Again, it's a tight division. It's a division that's certainly winnable for a team like the Brewers. One of the benefits of maybe underachieving a little bit the first half is that we've got the chance to overachieve in the second half. So I could definitely see the Brewers playing better, in the second half than we have in the first, and being significantly over 500. So especially with an acquisition, and again, I don't know if we want to talk about it this episode, but if we want to start talking about who we should start to target maybe at the trade deadline, it's coming up pretty fast. With July 31st only a couple weeks away, we could definitely start to be looking at specific players at this point.
Yeah. And I mean, well, I guess maybe next time we could, start throwing specific players. Of course, you can do it now, but I think just maybe, if we could generalize what we think the Brewers GM and will identify as our biggest weakness, and the type of player we acquire. Is it going to be a rotation piece? Is it going to be a bullpen arm? Is it going to be a veteran bat? Is it going to be a starting bat? Will it be a couple of those things? Most likely. I guess let's just throw that out there as a question. What do you think is, if you're a GM, could only acquire one player or one position to solidify this team for the second half, what role or what position would that be?
I mean, so if I'm David Stearns and I only could pick one position, I'd probably go for a starting pitcher. You guys know I've loved him for a long time, but I would love to get a guy like Marcus Stroman. I don't know what it would cost. I have no idea if we're going to be even in the ballpark or remotely able to match what the Blue Jays want in a trade, but somebody like that would be my ideal pick. That being said, we're not limited to one, so I would guess that Stearns is probably going to get a piece for the starting rotation of somebody in the bullpen like he did last year with Xavier Cedeno and Joaquin Soria, and then probably a utility type of player as well like we did last year with Granderson. I just think that it kind of makes sense for Stearns to be looking at those options. If we get a bigger bat, great. I don't know who's out there. Last year we did with Mike Moustakas, so maybe we'll see what's available at that point. And we saw Stearns was very creative last year. I mean, we really had a lot of upgrades, not only with the guys that I mentioned. We also got Jonathan Scope, who, it didn't work out like we wanted him to, but Stearns was willing to really kind of be creative in who he was targeting last season at the deadline. I think he probably was more aggressive than we might have anticipated. So we'll see what he does this year. But
well, I would say that I don't know. I just don't see this team getting anywhere with this bullpen. So I think that a bullpen arm, especially somebody that ideally, if it's somebody that we can have next year too, or somebody that can work 2 innings on occasion, that seems to be the MO or the way that we want to use our relievers anyway. So that's kind of where I'd go with it.
So that sounds like, the back of the bullpen is definitely a huge concern. I agree with you guys. I think that we have enough similar guys depth-wise that we can plug in a starting rotation that it's hard for me to see, unless we do get a controllable starter like a Stroman or Matthew Boyd or someone like that. I'm not even sure those guys have the upside that we would be looking for. That maybe strengthening the back of the bullpen, kind of replace Knable's role, would be really something that has a ripple effect that would help the entire team, including the rotation. That's probably the way I would go to. I don't know if I can throw a specific name. Maybe we'll do it next podcast. But, I think the back of the bullpen is number one. Starting rotation, maybe number two. And really just maybe like a veteran bat or something, or potential first base replacement. But I think that we probably will pass on that. Just stick with Jesus and Baines still. But I guess those are the things I'm looking at. But yeah, number one priority, back to the bullpen arm most likely.
Well, for what it's worth, I did want to say that we had on Twitter anyway, not actually who we would trade for, but which players within the NL Central we would want on our team. And 50% said Josh Bell, 24% said Luis Castillo, so there's the ace that you were looking for, and then 16% with Joey Votto and 10% with Paul Goldschmidt. So a lot of great first basemen in this division.
Yeah, that's for sure, although not all realistic options. You know,
no, not at all.
Extension with the Cardinals, but yeah. Yeah. So anyway, do you guys have any names maybe at the back end of the bullpen, if that's what we're looking at?
I already forget his name, but who was the guy who cleaned up on us this weekend on the Pirates? They said that we were looking at him last year even, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. I guess I could just ask one of the interns and they'll probably.
Yeah, it's funny. I think you mean Volquez, right?
I honestly possibly.
Scott, come on. Anyway, well, I don't know. Very good. Well, I don't know, guys. If we want to, maybe we'll wait to get into specifics until the next episode. But yeah, I tend to think starting pitching only because, again, our rotation's been up and down. We really don't know what we've got with a lot of these guys. Jimmy Nelson's back on the DL. We've had injury issues. We've had, all sorts of things. But Gio Gonzalez is, maybe coming back at some point in the second half, but we can't really rely on that. It seems like these guys take forever to get back from injury and starting rotation. So that's why I picked that. But you guys are right. I mean, we lost not only Corey Knebel, we lost Jeffers for a while at the beginning of the year. We lost Bobby Wall, who hasn't made an appearance yet in a Brewers uniform after we acquired him from the Mets for Keon. So our bullpen has really taken a hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Felipe Vasquez, that's who it was. So, for what it's worth.
Yeah, okay. Vasquez, got it. Yeah, no, he's been solid, and he's been good against the Brewers as well. But, yeah, definitely a potential name out there. I don't know if the Pirates – I mean, we saw them
What's funny about that
last year with Chris Archer, but I don't know if they'd be willing to necessarily trade, especially within the division, when they're only a couple games out of it at this point as well.
Yeah, especially because if they went for it last year, I don't see why they wouldn't do it again this year.
Yeah, well, I think exactly.
What happens in the next couple of weeks, I think, will be, tell the tale. I mean, some of these wild card potential teams, or even division contenders, if you want to consider players, that are going to decide literally at the last minute, like, are we still in this or not? If they're within 4 games, I would say the wild card, a couple games before the trade deadline, I think that they'd not sell off, but some of these might make last-minute decisions. But who knows? There could be some bargains to be had because of those last-minute decisions too. So hopefully the Brewers can benefit from that. I don't know, but hopefully we're not one of the ones selling at the last minute either.
And that's always a potential. I mean, you don't know. I really don't think that that's necessarily on the docket. When I look at this team, I don't see a team that's ready to sell. I don't see a team that's out of it by any stretch. I mean, heck, we were in first place until yesterday in the division. I think it'd be a huge mistake to sell at this point. We've got a tight division race. We're a half game back. A lot of baseball yet to be played. So I think it would be crazy if we started to sell. At this point.
Yeah, I don't think. I think we knew going into the season we weren't going to cut sellers. That's why we signed Moose and Grandal into 1-year deals. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done that. So I think Vince is right 100%. We're not going to be sellers outside of a complete catastrophe,
right.
The AllStar break or something.
Right. Christian Yelich decides to have back surgery and he's out for the year or something ridiculous like that. Like that's pretty much the only way.
Yeah, please don't talk like that.
I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I don't believe in jinxes. So. Although I did apparently almost jinx, what year was that? The year we won the wild card. I got yelled at the office. for putting up a magic number sign.
That was 2008, Scott. I mean,
yeah.
we did a whole movie about it. You should probably remember the year, but Have you guys gotten any indication from our anonymous source, Tom Carter, about guys in the minor leagues that the Brewers might be willing to move here as the deadline approaches, besides maybe Dubon?
I'll just say, go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say, I think Tom Carter mentioned something about his name. I can't remember what it was, but he actually threw out Peralta, so I don't know. Not sure what you can get from him at this point, but we'll see.
Well, he still is a young arm. I mean, and at the same time that he's been disappointing this year to a degree, he was also fairly impressive last year. So I don't think that Peralta has no value. I mean, I think that he does have some value. He's a young guy. He's a guy that throws hard. If he develops another pitch, Peralta is going to be a really solid major league pitcher. So I could certainly see him having some value in a trade scenario.
Sure.
Especially to a rebuilding team. A rebuilding team that can just throw him in the rotation and let him take his lumps up and down until he figures it out. Unfortunately, as contender, the Brewers don't have the luxury of doing that. So that's not our source TC once again. He just likes to go by that, guys, and not the full name. Obviously, then it's not anonymous anymore. He said something like you guys should look up anonymous in the dictionary, and I totally didn't know how to spell it. So whatever.
I just wanted to give him credit for being an anonymous source, like
we'll have our interns look up anonymous and get back to us. So he'll be fine.
They're not exactly the sharpest knives in the drawer either, but anyway, I guess what I'll say to answer Scott's question, who's available? I would be a trade. I would say any minor leaguer not named Keston Hiura, because I think he was our one and only blue chipper, potential all-star. I mean, obviously there are guys at the lower level minor league like Bryce Trang or something like that you'd want to hold on to, but I think everyone is available. I guess I'll just put that. There's no standout that we just cannot trade this guy. He's too valuable. That's currently in our farm system. That's almost unfortunate, but I think basically anyone and everyone that's not currently on the major league roster, as you pointed out, or as TC did, that even some guys like Peralta or Burns might be available via trade as a portion of a trade if need be, because again, we got so many guys that could be rotation arms, but it'd probably be good for an upgrade. But I can't see anyone in the minor leagues now that Hiura's up in the big leagues that they would not move. So we shall see.
Yeah, it should really be an interesting time of the year, I guess. You just really have to hope that the next couple of weeks that the Brewers play lights out, and hopefully, it's gonna, not only is it gonna, I guess, revitalize the fan base and maybe put management in a little bit more of that go for it mode, but hopefully it also maybe discourage some of these other teams that are on the fringe, like the Reds and Pirates for that matter.
I know that about a month or so ago we talked about, the Brewers are through their difficult beginning part of the schedule, and now it's time for the easy part of the schedule, heading in the break, and that's awesome. Well, that didn't turn out to be the case at all. The Brewers just decided to play their worst baseball for like the last 6 weeks prior to the AllStar break against most teams that were inferior to them, and here we are. The Brewers could have easily pulled ahead with anywhere from a 3 to 7 game lead, and then Alcindor going to AllStar break and really been in a strong position, and they're just not there. And I think, I hate to say it, but I'm going to call out, management on this one. I really think that the decision to send Keston Hiura back down for what must have been about a month, right before the break here, and brings Travis Shaw back costs. I mean, I don't want to make up stats, but I'll say that Keston Hiura was probably worth like 3 WAR wins above something during the last month, and I'd say that Travis Shaw was worth like -1 or 2 WAR or whatever, and so that probably cost the Brewers about 5 games in the last month. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but other people make up stats all the time and act like they're really, really awesome stats, so I'm just going to do that right now. I'm going to call it WAR.
Keston Hiura's WAR is 0.1 right now, Craig.
Once again, this is my stat that I made up. I'll call it WOR then.
Just according to Baseball Reference, his WAR right now in the big leagues is 0.1.
Yeah, but 83% of all people believe stats that are made up. Everyone knows that.
Oh, yeah.
Right there, the fact that you're telling me that Keston here has only been 0.1 more valuable than someone else that's playing mediocre second base over all the time he's been a Brewer, that's ridiculous. That right there.
I'm just saying that that's what the stat officially reads. That's all.
Well, there you go.
Travis,
you're pointing out how ridiculous WAR is as a stat, and people act like it's the end-all, be-all of all, judging a player, and I disagree with it.
Yeah, Travis Shaw's WAR this year is negative 0.8, for the record. So Keston's is definitely higher in a smaller sample size, but yeah, so. Travis Shaw's WAR last year was 4.1, and the year before that was 3.9 for the record.
Yeah.
And that's probably the only reason why Shaw was given so many chances at the big league level is because he proved so valuable the last couple of years. He got a little bit longer leash because of it. Unfortunately, he just wasn't able to do anything with those chances, and whether it had to do with lingering injuries or whatever it is, he just didn't produce, and that's definitely discouraging because, we as Brewer fans are really counting on him this year to help our offense, but it just has not worked out.
Yep.
So, well, I guess we could say, throw out our what do we think the Brewers are going to go this next week. I believe we only have 3 games after AllStar break. I'll go ahead and say that we're going to go 3-0 now that we got Keston Hiura in the lineup and
2-1. And we have less than a minute to go. Vince, what's your?
Oh, okay. 2-1.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Vince.
2-1. I'll say 2-1. Coming back from the break. That sounds good to me.
We barely did it. Stay classy, everybody. Go Brewers.
Go Brewers.
Stay classy with Dallas. Go Brewers.